Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kate Baring, and today I'm here with
Daniela Apostol.
and also our presenter, Ben Janid Ansa. And today, we will be presenting Cavite Mutiny of 1872. We are Group 7. And as Sir Kate likes to say, mabuhay and madaya. Ready na ba ang lahat for our presentation today? If so, can I see your guys' reactions in the chats? Your heart reactions, your likes, your wows. Ayan. Alright, so thank you so much for your participation, guys. But before we move on to this wonderful, wonderful presentation, let me ask you guys one question. So, sino ang makakapagbigay sa akin ng apelido ng tatlong paring martir na inakusahan ng mga Espanyol na namuna sa revolusyon laban sa mataas na buwis at polo servisyo? Can you just raise your hands, guys, if you want to answer, and we will call on your name again. The question is, sino sa inyo ang makakapagbigay sa akin ng apelido ng tatlong paring martir na inakusahan ng mga Espanyol na namuna sa revolusyon laban sa mataas na buwis at polo servisyo? Ayan, we have an answer here from Mr. Makugay. Can you open your mic, Genuine?
Hello po,
Okay, go.
si Gamborza.
Yes. Thank you so much. So, okay, correct, guys. The correct answer is indeed Gomburza or Gomez, Burgos, and Zamora. So, thank you for your answer, Mr. Makugay. And just for context, guys, Gomburza is going to be one of the key figures that will be mentioned later on this presentation, as they have a very significant role in the Cavite Mutiny of 1872. Now that we got that out of the way, let us proceed to our presentation. And I now give the floor to Ms. Daniela Musto.
Next slide, please. So the Cavite Mutiny happened on January 20, 1872 at Fort San Felipe in Cavite. Around 200 Filipino soldiers and arsenal workers participated in the uprising. One of the important reasons for their dissatisfaction was the removal of privileges that the Cavite arsenal workers previously enjoyed, especially their exemption from tribute and forced labor. The uprising was quickly suppressed by the Spanish military, and however, the Spanish government responded very harshly, and the event became more significant after the arrest and execution of Gomburza. This happened during a period when Filipinos were already experiencing economic exploitation, discrimination, and religious restrictions under Spanish colonial rule. Next slide. Now, the key figures connected to the Cavite Mutiny include Rafael de Izquierdo, who was the Spanish Governor General during the event, and Sergeant Fernando Lamadrid, who was associated with the Filipino soldiers involved in the uprising. Another very important group was Gomburza, or Fathers Gomez, Burgos, and Zamora. They were accused of involvement in the mutiny and were later executed. Their execution became significant because it contributed to the growth of Filipino nationalism. The social-political climate at this time was already tense because Filipinos were under Spanish colonial rule and experienced economic problems, discrimination, and restrictions on their religious practices. There were also disagreements involving Filipino secular priests. At the same time, Filipino intellectuals and reformers were beginning to develop stronger ideas about autonomy and independence. So, the Cavite Mutiny happened in a society where dissatisfaction with Spanish rule and Filipino nationalism were already growing.
Next slide, please. For our source analysis, we used the two phases of the 1872 Cavite Mutiny by Chris Antonet Piedad Pugan of the National Historical Commission of the Philippines. This was published in 2012, so it is considered a secondary source because it was written long after the actual event and uses different historical records to compare the interpretations of the mutiny. The purpose of the source is to show that historical events can be understood differently depending on the perspective of the people telling the story. The source discusses accounts from people such as Jose Montero y Vidal, Rafael Izquierdo, Trinidad Pardo de Tavera, and Edmund Blochen. And it is publicly available today at the NSGCP website, accessible to students, researchers, and the general public.
Next slide. Now, there are two major interpretations of the Cavite Mutiny presented in our sources. The Spanish account, particularly that of Jose Montero y Vidal and the official reports of Governor General Izquierdo presented the event as a planned conspiracy against Spanish rule. In contrast, Trinidad Pardo de Tavera challenged this interpretation. He argued that the event was only a localized labor strike caused by the grievances of the Cavite arsenal workers. Next slide. The Spanish accounts were part of the colonial government. Izquierdo himself ordered the executions, so his report was written to defend and justify what the government did. They also viewed Father Burgos as a threat because he was fighting for Filipino priests to lead parishes instead of Spanish friars. On the other side, Pardo de Tavera wrote his account many years later as a Filipino intellectual. His goal was to tell the truth from our side and prove that Filipino leaders and priests were innocent. He focused on the workers' complaint, not a grand conspiracy. So, what does this tell us about history is constructed? It showed that historical accounts can be influenced by the perspective, position, and purpose of the person creating the source. The Spanish accounts and part of de Tavera's accounts describe the same event differently because they came from different perspectives. This is why historians cannot simply depend on one source. They have to compare different accounts, examine their possible biases, and look at the evidence before forming an interpretation. In the case of Cavite Mutiny, studying both accounts helps us understand that history is not simply one version of the past, but something that is constructed through evidence and interpretation.
Next slide, please. Next is authenticity. The event itself is considered well documented because different records confirm several important details. These include the January 20, 1872 uprising, the involvement of Sergeant Fernando Lamadrid and around 200 laborers, and the location as Port San Felipe. There is also evidence supporting the removal of the workers' exemptions from tribute and polo y servicios. Finally, historical records confirm the execution of Bursa on February 17, 1872, as well as the exile of several reformists. So, while the interpretations of the event differ, many of the basic historical facts are supported by multiple records. Next slide, please. For credibility, however, we have to be more careful. The accounts of Izquierdo and Montero y Vidal have low objectivity because they were connected to the colonial government and supported the idea of a larger conspiracy. Meanwhile, Pardo de Tavera is considered more reliable when discussing the workers' grievances, although he also had a reformist perspective. We also have Edmond Blochet, who was a foreign observer and did not have a direct role in the colonial government. What makes these sources especially useful is that Pardo de Tavera and Blochet both supported the idea that the mutiny was more of a localized labor uprising rather than a planned nationwide revolution. This comparison helps us recognize that no single source should automatically be accepted as the complete truth.
Next slide. Now let's talk about provenance, or basically where the sources came from. The Spanish records included official dispatches from Governor General Izquierdo and military tribunal records. The Filipino reformist perspective came from the historical writings by Trinidad Pardo de Tavera. We also have foreign accounts, particularly the reports of Edmond Pochet, which were published in a French periodical. Because these sources came from different groups and perspectives, comparing them allows historians to have a more balanced and understanding of the event. Next slide. From this, we can get three important lessons about studying history. First is the subjectivity of historical narratives. History is not always just a collection of facts. The way events are presented can depend on the perspective of the person writing about them. Second is the danger of relying on only one perspective. If we only studied the Spanish accounts, we might believe that the Cavite Mutiny was a major planned revolution. And the third is the importance of triangulation. By comparing different accounts, such as those of Montero y Vidal, Pardo de Tavera, and Plochet, we can identify similarities and differences and get closer to a more balanced understanding of what happened.
Next slide, please. Finally, let's talk about why the Cavite Mutiny is still important today. Next slide. First, became a catalyst for the Philippine nationalism. The execution of Gomburza became a powerful symbol that contributed to the awakening of Filipino national consciousness. Second, the event influenced the later struggle for independence. It deeply affected Ceriza, who dedicated El Filibusterismo to the three priests. Third, the mutiny also represents the earlier resistance of Filipino workers against unfair colonial labor policies. And lastly, it remains a symbol of resistance against injustice and foreign domination. So, although the Cavite Mutiny itself was quickly suppressed, its consequences continued to influence Philippine history for many years afterward. Next slide, please. Lastly, these are the resources used in our presentation, and that officially brings us to the end of our presentation. From the beginning to the end, hopefully you guys were able to understand not only what happened during the Cavite Mutiny, but also why there are different versions of the story. Because as we learned today, history isn't always just about asking, ano ang nangyari? Sometimes, we also have to ask, sino ang nagsabi nito? And bakit ganito nila ito ikinuwento? And that is actually one of the biggest things that we learned from the Cavite Mutiny. The Spanish accounts presented it as planned conspiracy, while the Filipino interpretation presented it more as a localized labor uprising. And that is why comparing different sources is important, because it helps us get a more balanced understanding of the past. So that concludes our presentation about the Cavite Mutiny of 1872. And we hope you learned something from us today, and hopefully mag-stick sa inyo ang lesson. Once again, I'm Kate Baring,
And I'm Daniela Pastor.
and we are Group 7. Thank you so much for listening, everyone.
Alright, thank you so much, Group 7. Para talaga silang nag-show. Para silang nag-show, no? Thank you so much, no, for the entertaining, informative, also an informative discussion about the Cavite Mutiny. Yes, no, I agree with that idea. I mean, with what the presenters, Miss Kate and um, what's the name again of Daniela, Daniela, no, na this event needs to be cross-examined, no, because there are two accounts, no, accounts of the Spanish government and accounts of those who have witnessed, no, the or Filipino. So there's a need for an analysis, a deeper analysis of what have happened during the mutiny, because for the Spaniards it was something that's really violent, no? However, for the Filipinos it was just a simple way of calling out the government about their dissatisfaction in relation to the changes, no, with the policies and benefits of the um, uh, Filipino Cavite Arsenal personnel. Alright, now let's proceed to the presentation of Group 8. Again, congratulations, Group 7. I love your presentation. Okay, thank you so much. Now, Group 8, Group 8, yeah, Group 8, can you please share your presentation now?